Oh, our lovely Ayaka. Wow, she is finally gonna be back after a while. I'm sure that any of us who have already met Ayaka would definitely adore her because yes, she's such a lovely girl, not to mention we finally have Ayaka back in story mode after a very long time as well. Now, even though Ayaka has already had some of her reruns, many of us has been able to pull for Ayaka, but I do know that there are also many of us who's new to the game and haven't got Ayaka and would want to pull for her, and those of you who have already had her may be considering for her Constellations, which is why we have today's video discussing whether or not Ayaka is still worth your pulls, guys, because yes, coming into patch 4.0 there has been many different things regarding Ayaka gameplay. Now guys, it is almost 2023 year end, which is a perfect time to be holding our Genshin 2023 awards. So guys, I would love it if you could spare 1 minute of your time after this video clicking on the survey link below and voting for your favorite character, as they would definitely love your votes and support to be able to win the Community Genshin 2023 awards. So yes, it's very fast guys, just click on the link in the survey and vote down below, and of course I'll be making a dedicated video on this before year end, so look forward to it guys, and thank you so much for all of your support. So ever since Ayaka was released, she has always been considered to be a very much top tier cryo DPS, and yes, that is still absolutely true up until today. Ayaka and Ganyu has always kind of been, you know, like a little bit of a rival where people have been discussing so much regarding whether or not Ayaka or Ganyu is a better character. In my honesty guys, I would say they are approximately the same in terms of power level. It really goes down into how well you use both of the character. But of course, we're not here to discuss about Ganyu and much more about Ayaka, right? She is one of the easiest DPS to play guys because her main role is actually going to be a burst DPS for your team. Obviously, many of us would love to use her as a on-field DPS, but since the majority of her damage also comes from her burst DPS, Ayaka has always been the main go-to whenever you want to play her. Because yes, it does absolutely insane damage, 20 tick with very fast pacing, so you basically shred your enemies out really fast, especially when you have grouping character, you know, like Kazuha, Sucrose, Venti to group smaller mobs. Ayaka is just going to destroy everything with just one of her burst rotation, which is why, as I've mentioned, she's very easy to play guys. But what's more interesting about Ayaka is that she has access to really good cryo infusion, therefore she accesses an on-field DPS so well, especially if you want to play melt Ayaka. Her cryo infusion just helps her a lot in terms of dealing melt damage. So yes, especially when before Dendro was released, cryo team comps has always been so popular, you know, like melt freeze team comp, because Ayaka power team was just absolutely insane. The best Ayaka team back then has always been Ayaka, Shenhe, Kokumi and Kazuha. Even though we're not going to be relying on any of the elemental reaction freeze comp, Ayaka has always been so powerful because yes, Ayaka has access to Blizzard Strayer. However, as you have seen, Ayaka requires you to invest insanely a lot. For our best team, definitely requires you to have all 5-star character. Now coming into patch 4.0 guys, how have things actually changed for Ayaka regarding the meta? And I would say guys, it's actually not too much. There are a few changes and some of it is quite significant. First one will be the introduction to Wrathsley, where he is considered to be a cryo DPS. However, he can't compete with Ayaka because yes, in terms of meta speaking, Ayaka is still a lot better than Ryo. But the second biggest changes would definitely be Furina. Yes, Furina is an absolutely insane character to go alongside with Ayaka, basically taking the place of Kokumi on Ayaka's team. For now, not only she is able to increase insanely damage for Ayaka, but having access to off-field damage to help Ayaka out has never been a thing for a past team, because yes, neither Kokumi, Shenhe or Kazuha back then is basically a good sub DPS character, but now Furina is going to be there to fill out the spot. Therefore, currently Ayaka new best team guys is definitely gonna be Ayaka, Furina, Shenhe, and Jin. So yes, we're basically seeing technically 3 buffer for Ayaka, focusing on everything regarding her damage output. Yes, even though Jin's not gonna be there like Kazuya buffing a lot of elemental damage bonus, but she does have very good healing, and of course if you have high constellation Jin like C2, she does have that attack speed increase which help Ayaka on field DPS a little bit better. So those basically are the main changes that Ayaka had during the meta, which leads us to one of the most important parts of this video, which is looking into how good is Ayaka actually is right now. And so I would say that if you're looking at Ayaka alone, then her personal damage is obviously still there, and yes, if you're building her into the best team that she has, she will do very good number. However, here's the thing guys, overall in the meta, it's actually quite hard for her to compete right now as the best DPS, since there are so many new Fontaine characters that are really good, you know, like new Villette, focusing on building much better constellation Furina. Linny is even up there in the meta DPS. Plus guys, crowd teams can't now really compete with, you know, Dendro reaction based team or teams with Hydro characters due to the lack of elemental reactions. The biggest team that Cryo has is going to be Melt. Other than that, most of the time you're going to have to rely on Freeze team as well, and you know how little damage Freeze team usually have. Therefore guys, if you are someone who's really much focused on the meta, she's definitely not the best DPS that you can have and should be going for. And so guys, with everything that I've just discussed, do I still think that Ayaka is a worth it character for you to pull? And as I've mentioned, if you are someone who considers the meta, then yes, definitely the answer is gonna be a no, she's not worth it. However, personally speaking, I would definitely say Ayaka is still worth pulling because she's an absolutely fun character to have in play guys. Her animations and everything that she has is absolutely unique. Even though her water crossing is not as good as Furina, but yes, she has the power to cross water and basically freeze it to stand on water, which is really nice. But of course, Ayaka can still do insanely high number, and if you're someone who can invest into Ayaka with having everything of her top tier team plus her signature weapon, and yes, going for her constellation, you would definitely see Ayaka being very competitive in terms of damage output, which is what I'm still having right now guys. My Ayaka team is rather invested. I do have a pretty high constellation Shenhe and Furina plus a C6 Jin, and even though my Ayaka is only C0, she's able to do things really well. And so with that in mind guys, let's discuss a little bit about whether or not Ayaka constellation is still worth it, because I know that many of us are actually considering whether or not to go for her constellations. And so if you're thinking about constellation guys, first of all, her C2 is gonna be one of the best place for you to be if you are a low spender, because it does create an additional 2 miniature storm on each side of Ayaka's elemental burst. So yes, that is a lot better for her burst to actually, you know, technically not miss and still do damage if it's not aiming at the right place, or if you are in group situation where enemies isn't really group, which is something that is especially going on with her newest team because we don't have a grouper. So yes, C2 is gonna be a very good increase in terms of her DPS. C3 is also really good guys because it does increase your talent level of her burst, considering her burst do so much damage and her main kit talent level for burst is decently important. And then after that is gonna be C4, one of Ayaka's most impactful constellation, because yes, defense shred is technically still the rarest skill you have in the game, so her having access to this, you know, at a C4 does help you quite well. So overall guys, I would say those are the 3 constellations that you kind of want to consider if you have the space to invest into Ayaka constellations. If you want to go all the way to C6 for example, it's more about just you really loving your Ayaka, or else I would just usually recommend you to save for other character constellation, you know, like Furina. So guys, that should be everything I have to say regarding Ayaka at this point in time. I hope that the video was very helpful to you. So guys, if you're deciding to pull 4 character in patch 4.3 and yet you're still on the fence, then I have a very in-depth video going through everything about the 4 5-star character that's coming in patch 4.3, so I'm sure that will be very helpful to you, so be sure to check out the video right here. I really appreciate you guys staying with me till this part of the video guys, and with that I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.